When you have an emergency, when you have a financial emergency, need to get your hands on some cash, can you access your retirement accounts? Well, the Secure Act 2.0 actually made it a little more possible, added 2 new rules that you're going to want to know about. I've got that and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. In a time of need, financial emergency, where can you get your hands on some cash? That's a fundamental financial planning question that we all need to answer as we start making progress in our financial life. It's not fun to talk about an emergency fund. Who wants to think about emergencies? Plus, who wants to save up a bunch of money, having it earn very little interest when you've got all sorts of things that you want to do or financial, choices you want to make or whatever. So tricky. However, we go through 2020. Survey says, what's your biggest regret? As we all of a sudden face this economic downturn, the greatest regret was, I wish I had more cash. I wish I had more cash. All of a sudden, income dried up. All of a sudden, I was laid off. All of a sudden, and now this was interesting because you couldn't go out and spend money, but obviously you needed to pay bills and you still needed to buy groceries and all that sort of stuff. And so I needed to get my hands on some cash. And the IRS, or Congress, I should say, Congress at that time, stepped up in pretty meaningful ways, changed some rules so that people could get access to cash. We did several shows and discussions right here on the Wise Money channel about, all right, I know this is a need. Where can you get some cash from? And so, again, make sure you are a subscriber and turn on notifications to this channel. We're going to help you through it. But the Secure Act 2.0, the omnibus spending bill, 4,000 pages that no politician read, changed a bunch of rules. 100 tax law changes in there. 2 of them gave you more access to your retirement accounts during times of need. Now, just because it gives you more access, should you take advantage of it? I'll share my opinion there in a minute. But how do these new programs work? The first, it's a small one. It's the emergency withdrawal exception. Now, just so you know, doesn't start until 2024. So know that these companies are going to try and get their act together, get this ready all of this year so that you can have access to it when it starts in 2024. How does it start? You get to withdraw $1,000 from your 401k. Just $1,000. Not a lot, just $1,000. You can do it once a year if you need to. You've got 3 years to pay the money back, that $1,000, but you can draw this $1,000 once a year as long as, since you withdrew the last one, you've contributed $1,000 to your account. Otherwise, you've got to wait until the 3 years is up for the original one. What a mess. It's so much complexity just for the $1,000. And you might be thinking, well, okay, pretty complicated, but if I can draw $1,000 out, that's great. No, guys, you can draw $1,000 out. You still have to pay tax on it. It's just the reason they're making this exception is it's an exception to the 10% penalty. So all of this to avoid $100 tax. Now, I don't want you to pay any tax, so I'm happy to have you avoid it. That's great. But a lot of complexity here just to get access to $1,000. And even that, there's some if-thens because you can get access to it once a year, but only if you contribute another $1,000. And so very, very complicated. This is similar. If you're listening to this saying, okay, this kind of sounds familiar. The coronavirus-related distribution was something in, I don't know if it was the CARES Act, I believe it was, or one of the early stimulus bills during COVID, where they allowed you to draw out $100,000 from your retirement accounts, not just your 401k, and you had 3 years to pay it back. That $100,000 was taxable, but you could spread the tax over 3 years. And if you paid it back during that 3-year time period, then it removed the tax and you could amend your returns and avoid the tax on it. So $100,000 during a great time of need, I can see that. Similar rules with this, they've shrunk it down to just $1,000. Guys, I don't think that goes very far. A lot of complexity here for, I think, very, very, very little impact that will help very, very few people. But it's a new rule. They didn't ask me. You've got to be aware of it. That's the emergency withdrawal. And then the second, and now this one's a bigger deal, but it is also, I don't think, going to help that many people. And this is the emergency savings account that's linked to your 401k. This one also doesn't start until 2024. I think it's going to be very hard, a lot harder for 401k companies to get this set up. So here's essentially how it works. You can contribute to a savings account that's linked to your 401k. Okay, you can contribute to a savings account that's linked to a 401k. Your contributions would go into it. It's after tax. Your contributions are after tax, so you don't get a tax benefit for it. The limit is $2,500. The other kind of limits are if you're considered highly compensated, so you make over, I believe it's 110, 120, something like that, you're not allowed to do this, okay? That's a limitation. The other thing is if you're making this contribution into this emergency savings account that's linked to your 401k, your contribution would go in there. You get an employer match. You would still get an employer match, but your employer can't contribute into this savings account. The match that your employer makes would go into your actual 401k. I don't believe this emergency savings account would be invested. I think it would just be earning interest. And then here's part of the stickler to me is it says that the law says that you would have access to these dollars monthly. And when an emergency comes up, how quickly do you need access to dollars? Is monthly access enough for emergency funds? All right, like I said, this one doesn't take effect until 2024 as well. And so companies are going to be scrambling to get this set up, 401k providers and then your company. And employers have the option to force people and opt in, force people to do this and force people to opt out if they didn't want to. But essentially, this is building a $2,500 emergency fund that's linked to your 401k. So there you have it. Those are the new rules regarding giving you access to retirement accounts from the Secure Act. And it's $1,000 access for one, that's still taxable, but you'd avoid 10% penalty. And the other is access to $2,500 that you would save up out of your own money, save up into sort of a sidecar account that's linked to your overall 401k. So what do you think? Big legislation to get access to just a little bit of money. And I know financially we've all got a different financial circumstances. So I'm not negative on, well, if that would be an enormous help, then okay, great. However, your emergency fund shouldn't be $2,500. It needs to be bigger than that. It needs to be 3 to 6 months of what your lifestyle is. And you might say, well, but not everyone can afford to save up that much. Well, I get that, but the emergency linked savings account, it's still your money that you're saving up. The $2,500, it's still your money. So why save it up into a sidecar account that's connected to your 401k where you'd only have access to it maybe once a month versus saving up the right amount, 3 to 6 months of your lifestyle, into a savings account that you can have access anytime you need it. So when an emergency comes up, you don't need to worry, you've got the money right there. And so I guess I appreciate what the IRS is trying to do, essentially, or Congress. They're trying to cause or encourage people to save for retirement by saying, listen, if you saved up and you end up needing the money back, here's some easy ways to get some of the money back. Yeah, the Roth IRA, contributing to the Roth IRA, you can get your contributions back at any time. You don't need to wait 5 years. There's no penalty for drawing your contributions back out of the Roth IRA. There's no limit. It's not like $2,500. No, your limit is how much did you contribute total. You can draw that out of your Roth IRA. So there's a lot of complexity in the tax code that I just don't think is adequate help. I don't think it's real help. And so there's an attempt, and it might help some in very rare and unique circumstances, but I think the failure would be the thought, especially from HR professionals, community who aren't financial experts, some of them are, but who aren't financial experts, giving counsel to employees saying, hey, this is like an emergency fund. It's not. This is not adequate. It's not adequate for your emergency fund. So once again, you got to understand the rules, right? They didn't ask me, they didn't ask you. They made these rules, okay? So now we need to know that they exist, but you need to know that this is not a substitute for an emergency fund. You've got to work with your certified financial planner through all 6 areas of your financial life. And as you're working through your present financial position on laying out some big long-term goals that you're hoping to achieve, you've got to have a goal of building up that emergency fund. I don't like the word emergency fund. It makes you think negative things. Financial confidence account, rather, right? So it's the money that's there for an emergency, but you then have the confidence, because you've got that money there, that safety net, you have the confidence to go out and save up for those goals that you're trying to aggressively pursue. So work with your CFP. This is not a substitute for the planning, and in my opinion, I don't think it's even a great option in the planning process. Work with your CFP, build up that emergency fund, and then go gangbusters after saving up for those long-term goals. If you don't have a CFP on your team that's doing comprehensive financial planning, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.